Good morning, everyone. I'm so honored to be here with you today, and I wish I could actually just turn over my time to Pam. If you get another 20 minutes, Pam, here. I am going to talk to you today about how your story is the brand, and there is no better example than Pam here, who I met this morning, and the city of Fort Worth. I'm generally traveling around the country talking about two things, branding and blessings. I believe the two are both uniquely intertwined. And I think we have two beautiful examples of that here in a human as well as a city who is got a really strong brand, but is also blessing so many people as we've been outlining this morning. So we're going to do three things real quick in my time. I'm going to tell you a bit about my story. I'm going to teach you what I've learned over a career in branding and marketing. And I'm just going to encourage you with the information today. So I'm going to take 20 minutes and try to teach you all that I've learned in 20 years. And I'll try to make it less than 20. Got it? All right. I am very passionate about branding, and I am because I have been trying to rebrand myself for the last 20 years. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that crazy story here, but I learned some valuable lessons. Some I'll tell you a little bit more about in a minute during a career in brand marketing at Nike. And one of the things that I learned at Nike is that Nike is not selling sneakers. In fact, if you look at a lot of their advertisements that you see, whether it's with Michael Jordan or Serena Williams, you'll only see the sneaker featured for just a moment. Nike is selling stories, and they are some of the best storytellers in the industry, and quite frankly, in the world. And there's a really good reason for that, and I want to share a few of those findings with you this morning. It's mainly because we build trust through story, and people develop trust for us, whether we're a business or an individual, buy into that story. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story before I share with you some of those learnings. First, I grew up in Dallas, Texas, just down the road, obsessed with sports. I was a jack of all trades, master of none, unfortunately, because if you want to play sports at a high level, or really just even in junior high or high school, you need to be a master of at least one. I picked wrong. I wanted to play basketball because it was the coolest. Tiger Woods hadn't hit the scene yet, and unfortunately, ping pong was not a varsity sport at my school. And so in that game of musical chairs, unfortunately, I kind of struck out. And so in the absence of this really positive activity that I had had in my life in sports, I turned to drugs and alcohol. It's kind of the beginning of two cultural clashes that we had in sports specialization for kids, and unfortunately the opiate crisis for me. So I was arrested for the first time at 14, tried heroin for the first time at 15, and I got arrested again at a week shy of my 19th birthday, and by 21 I spent over a year incarcerated, all for low-level possession charges, but unfortunately I just couldn't get out of the grips of addiction. That year incarcerated gave me, in hindsight, an opportunity to stop and think of what I wanted my life to look like. And quite frankly, I just didn't want to stick a needle in my arm again. That was the bar that I set that was quite low at the time. But it gave me an opportunity to really reconnect with my mind, body, and spirit during that time. You see a lot of people do things like prison push-ups and workouts and pull-up, and I did all of things. I'm here to tell you that if you have a New Year's resolution that you're giving up on, you don't actually need all that fancy gym equipment. You can do quite a bit with just a floor and or a mop bucket. If you add water, it makes it heavier. If you take water out, it gets lighter. So that gave me some time, and it redeveloped a passion for that. And it didn't look like going to play professional sports, but it manifested in a couple of different ways. The first was I became a personal trainer. And within a pretty short amount of time, just 2 years, I had gone from the portrait of someone who was dying of addiction to trying to help other people live a healthier way of life. And I thought about my journey, and one of the things that really helped me to get that motivation to try to just do it and go work out when I didn't want to and chase my dreams was a company like Nike. So I found out about this dream job after going to a community college and studying in a university. And I basically took that, I would just call it dope fiend energy, and spent the next 5 years chasing this dream job at Nike. And so that led me to working in retail, volunteering for any events that I could. That 2011 Super Bowl that somebody mentioned, I was volunteering at that one, and all the ice craziness. But I picked up a camera, and it changed the course of my life. I just was trying to be useful in some kind of way. I did not have a lot of the traditional things that Nike was looking for in its employees. But I did have some hustle and some heart and a dream that I was chasing. And so they finally let me in the door after those 5 years. I got this role. It's called the Incan role. It's Nike spelled backwards. It's a brand evangelist who travels around teaching people the history and heritage of the brand while also teaching people about the latest innovation and products. If I were to sum that up a little bit, it's just basically they paid me to talk about sneakers, which is so wild to me, and why I spent 5 years chasing that dream job, because as a sneaker lover and as a sports lover, I couldn't imagine something that cool. Well, over the course of the next decade, I did get to do things that were way cooler than I ever could have possibly imagined. I quickly marketing. And I love that y'all said we love tourism, we also love marketing. I think I was the only one in the crowd who was like, woohoo! That's me. I love marketing. It's really about storytelling and communication, and how do we tell people about these great things that we do. Y'all have been doing an incredible job about that this morning. So I got to work in American football. I was here in the Dallas office, and I know y'all know Texas quite well. We care about one sport more than anything else, and that's football. And while the Dallas Cowboys can't win the East anytime soon, we do love high school football, and I got to see some of our best high school football players up close and personal, like Kyler Murray. I eventually got to go on to work at Nike's campus and work with all of our NFL athletes, our college programs. I got to work at Nike Women's for a couple of years, which was incredibly impactful. And then I got to finish my career in Nike basketball, which felt like poetic justice, because that's what helped me fall in love with the brand originally. That was an incredible career, and halfway through that career, though, no one knew the story that I just told you within the first 5 minutes of walking on this stage. I didn't know how to tell my story. I didn't know how people would connect with that story. Now, the conversation has accelerated quite a bit in the last 3 years. But in 2017, when an organization called I Am Second approached me about trying to tell my story, I was really hesitant. I didn't know if people would understand. I didn't know if people would give me the benefit of the doubt. And I realized that I had put my life back together, and I had hustled so hard. I had done so much grunt work to get this really cool job. And I felt like I might be committing career suicide if I were to tell people the dark parts of my past. And I'm grateful that I did. During that year, I had spent time thinking about what I wanted my life to look like. And a really important part of my recovery was serving other people. And it was the foundation of that. And so I was faced with this choice. Do I want a cool job title, or do I really want to help people live a better way of life and achieve freedom out of addiction and or incarceration? Fortunately for me, I answered the bell on the latter. And my biggest fears were not realized, I'm pleased to say. In fact, my career started to accelerate in ways that I couldn't have possibly imagined. And what I realized through that experience was one thing that is really important if you were thinking about brand, and if you're thinking about yourself as an individual, just in general, that we admire people in their strengths, but we really connect with people in their struggles. Suddenly people started to come to me and confide in me in totally different ways. You know, at Nike, we're great at branding, but one of the downsides is we could never really turn it off. We're always trying to convince people that we're awesome and that things are great and that they're amazing, when really sometimes people just need to know that they're not the only ones who's losing their mind at home, or that their brother, cousin, sibling, spouse, someone is going through something that's really hard, because we all go through really hard things on a day-to-day basis, and that's okay. 2020 hit. Like everybody, we all asked ourselves the existential questions in life, and mine was, okay, I believe my first role in life is to serve my beautiful wife, who I met in recovery, and my 2 beautiful children. And sitting in Portland, Oregon in the rain for 6 months out of the year at a small house, parenting in the pandemic in Portland just broke me. And so I gave up that cool title and that career. We moved back home to be closer to our friends and family, and so many of you have highlighted all the things that we love about being back home. Now I get to travel around and teach people about these things, branding and marketing. I love it. I spent a lot of time in colleges at TCU with great people like Kevin Smith and others. And I also get to yap about this on the internet today. So like, comment, subscribe if you'd like. All right, I'm going to try to tell you just 3 things that I've learned about branding. The first, when you hear the word brand, it is so unique to be here in Fort Worth, right by the stockyards, because I often use this image when I teach people. The initial verbiage of the brand is about branding cattle. Why? Because we're trying to create an association. So brand is a lot about association. Birds of a feather flock together, that type of thing. Who do you associate yourself or your business with when we talk about branding? Who are you aligned with? What are the type of things you are? What are the words that are aligned and associated with you? One of the academic definitions, if you were taking notes in the audience today, is that it's the space that a company or individual occupies in someone's mind. Put simpler, what is it that people say about you when you're not in the room? What is it people say about your business or your city when they ask about it? And what's the first thing that comes to their mind? It's a great way to remember it. So I'm going to tell you what I think are the 3 elements of a successful brand. First is to be distinct. To be distinct. One of my favorite images that we use when we teach how to be distinct is this. Which of these sheep is most memorable? You don't have to answer that. We already know the answer to this question. And I love this one because the black sheep is often used in a negative connotation, but it can actually be used in such a positive way. I want to use a local example here. I happen to be in Fort Worth, and this is one of mine. We have a local mascot called the Frogs, more technically the Horned Frogs. And I don't know if you know that during their national championship run, they adopted a special mascot that the student body had really come up with, and that was the rainbow hypnotoad. What's really distinct in a sea of frogs is a rainbow hypnotoad. But more importantly, if you're in a conference in highly competitive football, in a conference in a world of lions and tigers and bears, you know what really is distinct? A rainbow hypnotoad. So the first element is to be distinct. The second element is to be defined. We have to define what it is that we want to be known for. And we have that opportunity and we have that authority to be able to do that. So, summed up this in the simplest way that I can say is what makes you, you. If you're a business owner, what is it that is unique about you? Are you embracing what it is that's unique about you? What do you bring to the table? And your story is such an incredible part of that. Why did you found this business? Why here? Why now? Why this type of flavor? Why this type of entrance? Why all of these things have come together, these cultural collisions? You know, we often have I like to describe it by saying 1 + 1 + 1 = none. The more that you add from your story and the more elements that you bring into this and the more flavor you bring, the more distinct you will be. So I like to use an imagery sometimes and sum up quickly. If you were thinking about your brand, how can you say it in 3 words? And a lot of that starts by listing your strengths or skills or your passions and interests. For me, I have 3 that are creative, collaborative, and a communicator. Those are mine. Or if I'm speaking in public or in social media, I talk about 3 things. 1, criminal justice, because that's where I serve, and that's how I try to bless others to try to reach more freedom. 2, I talk about sports business, and 3, I talk about golf because I can't not talk about golf because I'm obsessed. So what are those for you? What are those elements that make up your business or for you, your uniqueness, and how do you bring that distinction by defining what it is that are your strengths and skills or your passions and interests? The second definition that I'll just quickly share with you about a successful brand is one that accurately portrays the message or feeling it's trying to get across. And that leads me to the third and final element here, which is to be real. A good way to ask yourself if you are being real is, are you embracing you? Are you showing up in a manner that is connected with you, that is authentic with you, that is allowing you to be yourself? Because nothing sniffs out inauthenticity more than people who are trying to fake something or look around and trying to be like all the white sheep when you can embrace your own black sheep nature. So those are the 3 elements that I believe make a successful brand. But lastly, I'm just going to leave you with the final element that I think makes the best brands, because the best personal brands are built on serving others, and I believe the best company brands are built on serving others as well. So this is a question to you as much as it is a challenge to you. How are you serving others? We have seen so many incredible examples this morning of people who are serving. Just the people who are putting on this event today, all of the people who have received awards, the people who have spoken to you are serving, and they are making incredible impact. And before you think that you can't serve other people, because maybe you have had some struggles before, or maybe you don't have it all together, just know that that perhaps could be your biggest strength. And if you have some strengths that you can look inward and find, you have the opportunity to serve other people who are going through struggles. And in a world that a lot of people are just thinking about themselves constantly, guess what that makes you? It would make you distinct. Thank you all so much for your time today. I appreciate you.